Welcome back to the Anglo-Italian podcast, and it is time for the next in our series of Euro 2024 previews. And this time, we're joined by friend of the show and supporter of the host nation, Adam Khan. Adam, how are we doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. We're getting pretty excited about the Euros over here. You must be getting pretty excited yourself, seeing as it's happening in your own back garden.
Yeah, we spoke to it off the show briefly. I mean, I'm in Cologne, of course, one of the big stadiums for this tournament, hosting Scotland, of course, as well for the people across the pond who are coming over. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement here. There's starting to be some live viewing areas built. There's starting to be a lot of the ticker tape rolled out. So yeah, the Euro 2024 fever is really hitting Germany.
We love to see it. Well, let's start with, obviously, with you being the host country, there's not been a qualification period. There's not really much to judge the German team off of. There were some dodgy friendly results and then some better friendly results. Like, how is the mood in general with the German national team and with the man in charge?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit you don't know what you're gonna get. I think that's kind of the theme that is coming back and back with this German national team. You had that excellent camp um in I believe it was what April where you beat France and then you showed up again a few days later against Netherlands to almost restate that the German national team is back. And then I mean we're recording just a day after or 2 days after the pretty drab 0-0 against Ukraine. So yeah, like I said, I mean, you don't obviously want to look too deep into those pre-tournament friendlies. They don't mean all too much a lot of the times when it comes to the real thing. But the general trajectory of the German national team has been worrying. And I mean, the consensus within Germany was if Germany had to actually qualify from a real group stage, it would have been really difficult. I mean, you look at, for example, a group like Italy had with a club with another nation like I believe England and Ukraine in that group together. Yeah, there would have been a lot of worries if Germany would have had the quality to master that when you look at the fact that they had defeats against Turkey, defeats against Poland, defeats against Colombia, defeats or draws against Ukraine all in the last 12 months is
Mm-hmm.
not the most optimistic. But then of course again, like I said, you have those results against France, against the Netherlands, and also you have so much talent which has been at the absolute pinnacle of the European football in the domestic game. That is like Florian Wirtz, Robert Andrich, Jonathan Tah from that Leverkusen side that went unbeaten. Player like Jamal Musiala, who's grown into even a more prominent role.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Toni Kroos, Antonio Rudiger, both Champions League winners and both also probably at the peak of their game right now. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting storylines where it has a lot of positive elements and there's an easy way to be optimistic here. But then of course you also have the lingering sense of, hey, how is it actually really coming together as a collective? And is it going to be the face they showed against France, or is it going to be the face they showed so often under Hansi Flick over the past
Mm-hmm. Well, this is the thing, because with the management, it's been quite a kind of tumultuous time in terms of who's been in charge of the German national team, how long people are sticking around. Even with Nagelsmann currently in charge, he's still getting linked to other jobs elsewhere. Like, how do German fans feel about Nagelsmann, and what type of football can we expect from him?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Nagelsmann signed a long-term deal now that season go until 2026 ahead of the tournament is kind of a sigh of relief for the
Mm-hmm.
German national team and also for the fan base because, as you rightly mentioned, I mean, this always looked like from the beginning almost a little halfway stop for Nagelsmann before then taking a real big job in the summer. So the fact that he has now signed a long-term contract and also turned down an offer like that came back from Bayern again. I imagine
Mm-hmm.
Barcelona was also in talks with him and many other clubs from the Premier League as well. So, yeah, I imagine there were offers there, and then Nagelsmann committing his future then for the World Cup as well is a big statement, and then it also shows that this is more than just kind of a little halfway tournament for him and the German national team, but something that he can really build for.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as tactics go, I think that obviously when you think of Nagelsmann, you think of a real, in Germany, we call them a laptop trainer, someone who really has a huge amount of analysis. I mean, you see with Nagelsmann, he has the video wall in the training pitch to show and go deep into tactics. So he's a deep thinker, Nagelsmann. But he's also made it clear himself, international football, you do need to simplify your game a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is something we're going to see. We're not going to see necessarily Nagelsmann try and go with the radical systems that he tried in the beginning at Bayern with, a back three, modifying into a back four a lot, Serge Gnabry playing as a wing back and then a forward. I think he will keep it relatively simple and try and build off the principles that guys like Sebastian Hoeneß have laid down in VfB Stuttgart, guys like Xabi Alonso have laid down in Bayer Leverkusen, and of course, from his time at Bayern with the likes of Thomas Müller, Manuel Neuer, Joshua Kimmich. So I think he has a good core and quality group that are playing in systems already in club football that model the type of style Nagelsmann wants to bring in. So I think that shift will not be too dramatic for any of the key players in the side.
Very nice. Well, let's move on to the squad. And of course, you've rung off so many names there, like Rudiger, Toni Kroos. The last time we're going to see him on a pitch is in this tournament, right? Both of them picking up Champions League medals. We've seen Musiala, as you said, get more important this season. Jonathan Tah emerging. A player who really impressed me, and maybe it's just because I saw him against Arsenal for Bayern Munich, was Pavlovic as well for Bayern Munich. Like, there's quite a few exciting young players coming through into the squad as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can start with Pavlovic right away. He's a really, really interesting player. He's kind of one of the discoveries, I would say, from the Thomas Tuchel era. One of those where, it was Niko Kovac, who also had a really poor spell at Bayern, but he's always labeled as the man who kind of brought Alphonso Davies into the side. And that's a big, privilege to be able to kind of, go back to Kovac for that. And I think that when we look back on this Thomas Tuchel era, one of the biggest positives will be the integration of Pavlovic into the side and that long-term future he will have in the German national team and Bayern. And as far as a player type, I mean, Pavlovic is really this dying breed of deep line playmaker, right? He's not the most athletic player. He's not someone who is, bursting up and down the field with box-to-box energy, but he's someone who really likes to kind of dictate the tempo in front of a back line, and to do so at such a young age is remarkable at kind of the caliber of club that Bayern is. So he's really a model like a Toni Kroos, like a Jorginho, these players who really love to get on the ball and really just move it about the pitch.
Yeah, are there any other players in the group where you think they could have a breakout tournament here? I think, again, from an Arsenal point of view, I might be a little bit excited to see Kai Havertz up front if he's the main striker. But are there any other players that you think people who don't only watch the Premier League or Serie A might discover?
Yeah, I think that the one that's probably Serie A fans have got to know a little bit in the recent months is Robert Andrich. He scored that really incredible goal against Roma in the semifinals, and it was kind of his omission that really saw Leverkusen undone in the final against Atalanta. He's kind of that real, true defensive anchoring presence that the German national team have needed since Sami Khedira retired in 2018, and I mean, you could even go further and say since 2014 when Khedira started to decline a bit. So it's been a decade that Germany have been looking for that profile, and Andrich, they really have that. I think it's a discredit, though, to only call him really kind of this hard man in midfield who just wins possession. I mean, he has one of the best pass accuracies in the Bundesliga. He has a great long-range finishing quality. He's a leader on the pitch. So, there's a lot of things that he can bring to the game. And specifically, when we saw Andrich and Toni Kroos together against France and the Netherlands, it was the best type of football we've seen from the national team in I would argue probably at least 6 years. So a really, really important player, even though he won't get the plaudits. And then, I mean, you mentioned Kai Havertz in kind of this false role, but I also want to give a mention to Dennis Undav, because he could be another player who can really fit this model of striker. He's someone who is almost this, second striker, I would say, like Havertz a little bit as well. He's played off of Guirassy for a lot of the time in Stuttgart, almost in a two-striker formation where he drops into midfield a lot to pick up possession and can link play. And it was interesting to see Undav then come on at halftime and work in tandem with Havertz, with both of them kind of one dropping, one going deep, two very, very mobile center forwards playing together. So, could be cool to see how that could fit in. And Undav, again, is another player who has Premier League experience at Brighton, maybe didn't necessarily work immediately there, but has now had a spectacular season in Stuttgart and will definitely be a target for a lot of European clubs.
Nice, but we do need to talk about a glaring admission. Now, obviously, he's a bit of a contentious character, but in defence, there's no Mats Hummels. He's not been called up to the squad. How do you feel about this? Do you think it could be a decision that Nagelsmann lives to regret, or is there enough quality in the defence to get over that omission?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously an interesting one because first of all, on the one hand, you also need to kind of separate the Champions League and Bundesliga performances. I think that a
Hmm.
lot of European football watchers who maybe don't regularly tune into the Bundesliga also have a bit of a modified image of Hummels from only seeing him in the Champions League. Because, for example, the Dortmund team in general that played on the weekend against Wolfsburg or on the weekend against Cologne was very, very different to the one that
Hmm.
played against the PSG. And you also did see kind of gaps and limitations to Hummels' games that makes it's not as easy to maybe have him as an unquestionable starter in the German
Okay.
national team. And then the other aspect, of course, is I mean, Hummels is a very, very ambitious player, right? He's someone who isn't going to keep his mouth shut, and he's someone who has, yeah. And I mean, there's goods and bads to it, right? I mean, he's a leader, right? And
Hmm.
then on the other hand, leaders also don't like being sat on the bench or not being able to influence the game. And then we saw kind of how that relationship deteriorated between him and Terzic. For
Hmm.
example, Dortmund will not renew Hummels' contract because there is kind of a feud there that is not salvageable in the long term. And for Nagelsmann, I mean, he has a profile in a Waldemar Anton who, okay, is maybe more limited a little bit than Hummels and yeah, doesn't have the big tournament experience of a Hummels, but he shares a lot of the same characteristics on the ball. And I mean, Waldemar Anton has played 47 minutes in his national team career so far and has never played in the Champions League, right? So he's also not a
Oh.
player who can then necessarily go into the national team and say, hey, why am I not starting? This is a complete catastrophe. And then he'll make a lot of noise in the dressing room, right? So
Mhm.
that's kind of one of the key elements that Nagelsmann has preached about, which is also one of the learnings from the recent World Cup is that I mean, building a squad is far more than just picking the best 26
Mhm.
players in the country. It's about picking the right profiles to form a team, and I think that's where, yeah, that's where a guy like Anton then has a leg up ahead of Hummels in that role that is specified for him.
Mhm. Yeah, I think we see it so many times with teams that do tend to do well in tournaments. There's like a club atmosphere there, or there's like a family atmosphere that gets that kind of just that extra couple of percent out of the performances, right? So maybe, yeah, having someone who's a bit quick to go on Twitter might not be the best influence on the dressing room. But let's finish with the final question. And it's a big one, I think. How far will Germany go? I think in people's perception, they've gone from a team that nobody expected anything from to a team that maybe is a dark horse to now a lot of people I'm talking about are like, well, Germany in tournaments, they're at home. Could they win it? Like, how far do you think Germany will go? And what do you think counts as a successful tournament?
Yeah, I think that one of the big positives for Germany is the side of the tournament that they're drawn into and also the group they've been drawn into. I think that the fact that okay, I mean Switzerland, Hungary, and Austria. I mean, excuse me, Switzerland, Hungary, and Scotland.
Mhm.
I think that Germany is the clear favorite there, even though there's some difficult prospects. But I mean, if you compare it to some of the other groups in the competition, it's definitely one of the easiest groups.
Mhm.
And if Germany top that, then in all likelihood they'll miss out on a France and England until the final. So that's already a huge advantage, I think, because I think those are clear in my mind the two favorites going into
Mhm.
the tournament. And for me, I think that Germany, the expectation and what is demanded is that they win at least one knockout stage fixture. So get out of the group, win at least one game, and then from there, I mean, you have lotteries in knockout stage football,
Mhm.
right? I mean, it's knockout stage football relies a lot on individual errors, moments of genius, and Germany are capable of both. They're capable of individual errors and they're capable of genius going forward. So yeah, I think that's something where it's hard to give a exact prediction, and I think that the difference between Germany going out in a quarterfinal and going or in winning the final is a smaller margin than Germany going on the group stage and then making it to the quarterfinal, and that's how I see it. But for me, if I had to make a bold prediction, I would say Germany make it to the semifinal and then get eliminated against maybe a traditional enemy in Spain who seem to always get one over on us.
Yeah, yeah, quite possible. Well, I'm kind of slowly expecting more and more from this Germany team. I think we are seeing steady improvements, and of course, being at home is definitely going to help.
Yeah.
But Adam, thank you. That was fantastic. Always a pleasure to have you on. When our viewers and listeners want to find your stuff, where can they find you online?
Yeah, I think the best place is just to go on Twitter. If anything goes up from me, then you'll always find it there first as well. So just at @sets Adam Khan @sets on Twitter, and then yeah, I'll be trying to put out as much content as possible during the Euros, and then also some other scouting content or written content that comes around all of German football for next season as well.
Beautiful. Well, we'll definitely have you on during the tournament and post-tournament as well to catch up on how it went. Thank you for joining us. As always, guys, hit the like and subscribe button down here. You can find us on Twitter at Italian Anglo Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Anglo-Italian Pod. And we'll see you next time for the next one. Ciao, alla prossima.